whenever I wear stays, I just like hitting myself on the chest. I skipped it last year, but we're going to be doing a witch again. Today I'm going to be starting a new series, kind of new old series, but I'm going to be making a witch Halloween costume for the closing weekend of PA Ren Fair. Last year I skipped my intended to be yearly witch costume. I only got through 2 years and then got burnt out last year, so. But we're picking it back up again, and hopefully it will become an annual thing starting this year. In the past I've done a mossy witch, and I did just kind of like a general, I don't know, harvesty looking witch. This year the theme is cobweb, dusty attic kind of witch. So if you like went into a dusty old attic and found a bunch of cobwebs and like old fabrics and stuff, that's kind of the vibe for this witch. So my color scheme is going to be a lot of like lavenders and pinks and grays and ivories, I guess. Just kind of like muted, soft colors. And then I'm gonna slap some spiders and cobwebs and stuff on myself. That's the plan. This video is gonna be covering the corset, which I'm going to be making in the next couple of days. It's actually stays, not a corset. But this is kind of what the whole outfit is gonna be based on. I've gotten a couple sketches together, but I haven't really gotten a full rendering together. Sketches here. And I have a few ideas for what I wanna do, but the main thing that I really liked across multiple of my sketches was doing a pair of stays like this. So that's the plan for this, and then I'll kind of build the rest of the costume around this pair of stays. For the pattern, I'm going to be using a pattern by Lunneth on Instagram. This pattern was made for her like fall Cinderella, like pumpkin-y kind of thing, which was really cute, and I have used this pattern once before. I have this pair of stays that I made, and the color scheme is just really not at all my vibe. I asked on Instagram what color I should do the binding and the lacing, and the resounding answer was green, and I think that was a mistake since I don't actually wear much lime green. I'm not sure why I have this ribbon in the first place. Probably should have dyed it. But I really like the shape this pair of stays gives me. I just absolutely cannot stand the color, so I never wear this. I think I've worn this literally once for the reveal of that video, so we're going to be remaking these in a color that I actually like. Lavender is still a color that I don't wear super often, but it's definitely something I wear more often than this. Gonna avenge myself against this fabric. Cool. I do have a ton of fabrics that I've pulled from my stash, and I'm hoping to use a lot of stash fabrics in this, especially in the skirts. I'm hoping to make a couple layers of like large skirts, so that should use up a bunch of stash fabric. But for the top part, which is more what I have fleshed out than the bottom half of this costume, I've picked out these fabrics. So I'm kind of between this one and this one for the blousey shift kind of thing. The pink Point Esprit is like really nice and soft and like fluffy, and I think it'll feel really nice. Also, it just, wow, look at I'm looking at a monitor underneath the camera, and this just looks so pretty in the monitor, and it's like so pink and fluffy. Good contender. The other option is this fabric, which is less exciting looking, I guess. But it's got this really nice like iridescent, it kind of is showing up on camera. The one side is just like a plain cotton, I don't know if this is cotton or linen, but then the other side has this nice shimmery effect, and it's not like super obvious. It's not like the blouse that I made for my Star Pirate, Celestial Pirate. It is a little more subtle, but I think that this could be really cool too, and I think this might be more comfortable if it's hot out, so maybe I'll check the weather. The stays, I'm going to be using one of these fabrics. This is my backup fabric, so the plan right now is that I'm going to take this fabric and dye it with Rit Royal Purple dye, and we're going to see how that goes. I haven't actually tested the fiber content of this yet. This is a mock-up also, so it's kind of like pieced together silly, but I'm going to take this part, I'm going to stick it in some dye. Hopefully it comes out a color that I like, because I do really like the pattern like texture on this. I think that looks really cool, whereas this is a plain wool and it doesn't have that much texture. I would rather use this. But if this kind of goes horribly awry, then I do have a backup, and I will be just fine making a pair of stays out of this, because that'll be cute too. That is all I've got so far. I guess along with this guy, I am going to be selling it soon, so hoping to do a story sale within the next few weeks on my Instagram. If you guys want me to host that in other places as well, let me know. This will be going up for sale eventually, so if you want first dibs on it, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to contact you. Yeah, so that's it. Let's go dye some fabric.
Afterward, one character is revealed. Satisfied with their answers, I look out toward the empty stage. A gentleman with tan blonde eyes begins to spot beside me and gives me a grin.
Because last time I felt like I didn't do the binding very well, and I think what I tried to do was just do the whole thing by machine. I'm being really careful to do the binding correctly this time so that it actually is like holding everything in place, is really nice and even, doesn't look wobbly, just like really trying to make sure it looks nice. It does help that the binding I'm using for this one is a cotton satin ribbon rather than a silk satin. The silk satin is obviously harder to use because it's a little more slippery, but the cotton has a little bit more of a grip to it. It doesn't slide around as much. As I'm stitching this on, I'm just basting this right now. I am going to go over it again with the machine just to make sure it's like really on there, but I've done a stay stitch around where I cut every tab, but I'm making sure to really get past the stay stitch. This one's really close to the edge here, but some of them are like farther into the actual garment. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm over the stay stitch where I'm basting it. Also trying to make sure that both sides are really even. So if you can see on this ribbon, there's like a little teeny bit of a selvage there. So I'm just stitching right through the selvage, and I'm trying not to get the actual like face part of the ribbon just because this is really, it's satin, so it'll be really obvious. If I keep my stitching on the selvage there, it'll look really neat. It won't look like I just stitched through the ribbon. Just going through the face side of this, and then when I flip it over, I'm making sure that this is going just straight through the selvage there, which it is. Great. Kind of tedious and it takes a while, but I think it's worth it because otherwise it's just such a pain to get around these tabs. So this just makes it the whole process a lot easier. At this section where it's kind of not wanting to immediately grab it because like this is all bent over there, I'm just going to use my needle to try to maneuver this over here, grab just that little teeny part of the selvage like that, and now it should just pull the whole thing over there, and then having another stitch right next to it will help keep that in place. Literally just go like a millimeter away from it, basically. Go back to the front. See, that's gotten like pulled away there, and that should kind of
keep all of this in the right place, even though it doesn't really want to be there. I've only boned the channels that are going to be inaccessible once I get this binding on, because it is a lot easier to maneuver the entire garment when there's not a ton of boning in it. Otherwise it just is like this rigid floppy thing and it's not fun to deal with. So I just put in the minimal amount of boning that I need to before I seal all of this up, and then I'll put the rest in and then do the neckline where there's fewer curves to deal with.
Thanks for watching. I hope you guys liked this part 1 of the new witch series. It's been a little while since I've done a stays video and I'm really happy with how these turned out. I also, whenever I wear stays, I just like hitting myself on the chest, stomach, torso, you know, whatever. Yeah, I'm much happier with how these turned out than how the last ones turned out. Okay, let's see, the changes that I made, obviously the fabric is different and I really like this fabric a lot more. I took it in a little bit at the side seams, and then I also shortened the straps by about 2 inches. So the previous one, the straps were definitely way too long for me. I tend to have a short distance from here, shorter than most patterns and clothing expects me to be. I usually have to shorten my shoulder straps on most things. Oh, I also shortened the back a little bit. The center back is a really long panel, and it looks kind of like a platypus tail when it's really, really long, so I shortened that as well, and I think that just like aesthetically looks a little better to me. With that, I shortened the tab that was right next to the center back. Yeah, those were all the design choices that I changed. I was thinking that I might go back into these silver grommets and cover them with like some purple embroidery thread eventually. I think maybe in the future, if I make these stays again, then I'll increase the space between the grommets for the lacing, just because I think this is a little overkill. Usually I space my grommets an inch apart, and this does pull everything in very efficiently, but it also is kind of a pain to get laced into this. That is a change that I might make in the future. I think also like I prefer rounded tabs more than I like angular tabs, and this is all like very square tabs, so maybe I'll round those off. I do really like the top neckline of this. It's a good height, it's a good width. I think it gives a really good shape. It's like got the conical and then like flares out at the hips. There's a couple of the tabs that just stick out a lot, and I don't love that, but I don't know. I don't know if maybe the tabs are just too long on this and they could be a little bit shorter, but it is what it is. The other really big difference between this one and the last one is I was a lot more careful with binding off the tabs. So the binding on this is just so much nicer. It looks a lot cleaner. There's no sections where it's not like completely covering all of the raw edges, so that's good. There were definitely a couple spaces in the last one where I messed that up, so I will have to go back and fix those if I'm going to sell those. It's worth it to go slowly and to baste it all down first, and then when you machine stitch it, it's so much easier. You don't have to worry about like, am I missing the edge of the stitch or the edge of the ribbon, and it makes everything so much less of a headache, even if it takes much longer. Yeah, I think I was sitting there sewing that binding for 4 hours. It took a really long time. The neck edge, totally fine. Doesn't take much time. That's pretty quick. It's getting around all these little curves that is a pain, so just something to keep in mind, and something for future Minji to keep in mind. Don't try to just brute force machine stitch these tabs. Please baste it before putting it anywhere near the machine. And yeah, I'm much happier with these stays. I think they look really cute, and I like this fabric a lot. This fabric actually is from one of the mock-ups that I made in grad school. This is my very first production that I was a part of at Carnegie Mellon when I was there for grad school, and I was assisting like head draper on a specific costume. This fabric is what we used for the mock-up. I think I held on to it because the panels were big enough that I could use it for something else in like a different mock-up. I had a collection of scraps, like large-ish scraps, that I kept from school whenever I had to do projects. I could just do it at home. I ended up finishing grad school in the middle of the pandemic, so that just stayed with me. Are you okay? The new cat's sneezing a lot. I would show her to you, but she doesn't let me pick her up, so if you could hear the sneezes, that's her. Yeah, so this fabric was from my very first production that I was officially a part of in grad school. I did work on pretty much every production that went through the building, just like by manner of working in the shop and like having different assignments, but this was the first role that I had that was like, this is my project that I am assisting with. Can you stop chewing on whatever you're chewing on? But this was the first one that like I had a project that I was meant to see through to the end. So I thought that was kind of exciting that this was really like one of the first things that I worked on ever, and I got to take it apart and use it for something else that I really end up liking. It was like white before, and I dyed it, and it was very, very dirty. I thought that was kind of cool, and like just a full circle moment of costuming. Yes, yeah, I'm happy with this. I would show this to my professors, so that's always a good sign. I don't know what else to say about this. Like, I think those are pretty much all my notes on this, like changes to the pattern and ways that I improved from the last time I made this pattern. So I don't know, that's kind of cool, like how I've improved. I guess I could go back and watch that video and see what past Minji said about making this pattern. I don't actually remember. Probably that I rushed it and I didn't do a very good job on the tabs, because I did rush it and didn't do a very good job on the tabs. So yay, revisiting old things and doing better the second time around is always a good thing. If you have other ones that you want to see me redo, I have done so many projects on this channel, and a lot of them are corsets or stays. And I feel like a lot of them were done at the point of my life when I was really suffering from burnout and crashing headfirst into the burnout. So I was rushing a lot of them, and I don't think I did my best work on a lot of projects from that period. I feel like at this point, like, I am still kind of like rushing through projects, but I'm rushing through at a pace where I can still take the time to do the small tedious things and feel like I did a good job, rather than just kind of crashing through it and wanting to be done with the project as quickly as possible because I was so tired of sewing. So if there are any projects that I've done in the past that you'd like to see me revisit, any patterns, like I have so many corset patterns and stays patterns that I have made already but would love to make again, just in like different fabrics. If you have any specifically that you'd like to see, then let me know. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps me out, and your views always help me out too. If you have any questions, comments, anything that I glossed over too quickly, or that you have a suggestion for how I could have done something different or better, let me know that in the comments as well, or if there's other stuff you'd like to see. And if you want to see the rest of this costume get made and the Ren Fair videos that will go along with it, then please subscribe. This bodice again is going to be part of a Cobweb witch, where I'm going to be making like a hat and a staff with hopefully a candelabra, and like making some lace skirts. If I have time, I want to do some like quilting patchwork stuff for a skirt. So lots of things to come, and that's coming up. So if you want to see more of that, then please subscribe, and that's it. That's all I got for you. Alright, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye!